Yo, look at this pretty place. Look at this. Look at that. Japan is made to chill. What is this? What are we looking at? Kudan Kaitan Terrace. Got a lot of dental clinics here. Business airport shop, whatever that is. What the hell? What is this? Hold up. What? The heck? I once saw a video by a Japan influencer, and the lady was claiming that there's nowhere to sit in Tokyo. I don't know about that. Meanwhile, apparently this is a dental office. Fascinating. How is this a dental office? Kind of Illuminati. What? What the fuck? This is a... See a dog? Sussy Devil May Cry caliber building. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I wasn't even gonna have like any content. Really, I was just gonna talk about like teaching kids in Japan or something. Meanwhile, apparently this building, which is apparently a office for dentistry, just happens to have this Devil May Cry 2 motif. What? Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here before they figure out that we don't belong here. Okay. Anyways, what was I saying? I bet the water here isn't even fluoridated. Look at that. I bet these water fountains are super clean. You guys think if I drink this water, I'll become like them? Oh, of course. It's not even for drinking. It's just to wash your paws. Probably to wash your animal paws. Look at it, it's so dripping water. Do I need to stop it? Is conservation a thing in this part of the elites? Okay, yeah, it stops. What the heck? Alright, let's get out of here. This place might be, I'm not gonna say it's too rich for my blood, but anyways, I once saw a video claiming that there was nowhere to sit down in Tokyo. I don't know what that lady was thinking. I guess she was thinking about making content. I don't know. So yeah, the reason we're gonna waddle out to Akihabara is because what the? Sorry, I am getting distracted by what is this building? Looks like offices in there. Sus, bro. This area is quite bougie though. As if you couldn't tell by whatever that dentist offices was over there. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess the elites want to go to like a dentist office that's located inside a building that resembles a Devil May Cry 2 level, because it reminds them of home, which is hell. Hey, check this out. Where are we? This looks like it'd be like part of the, look at all that water. This looks like it would be part of the, what's it called? Imperial Palace. Could we use this as a shortcut? Not at all. In fact, I think we took a wrong turn actually. We did. We were never meant to see that office building. Let's look at myself with some good lighting. 1, 2, 3. What's up? Can I take a picture? Alright, never mind. Man, I can't believe I took the wrong turn. You can't blame me though. I mean, you could. I do. It's been quite a number of years since I've taught kids, but I did want to share my thoughts. And I guess I'll start by saying that I'm not sure if I was good at teaching kids, but The kids were happy. The parents were happy. That I know of. And the people who weren't happy were the other teachers. Mainly because I wasn't following protocol. They might deny this, but later they replaced their curriculum with a protocol that essentially matched how I was teaching the kids all along. That being said, I was still being insubordinate because I was not following the given curriculum strictly enough. English teacher, guys. But my mindset at the time was just to make sure the kids learned stuff, obviously, and to, not waste their time. It's weird. And actually, this is where, again, start having the nuanced conversation. When you're teaching a language, it's quite easy to create a list of items that need to be integrated into the minds of the students. And we want it to work that way. We want our brain to work like it's a filing cabinet where you can just add some documents to it. This is probably an old analogy. There's probably like some more high-tech analogy. We all want to append vectors to our RAG databases for our LLM minds to more easily access the information. Maybe that's a more updated analogy, but it seems to not work that way, really. We want it to work that way desperately because it's easy to conceptualize, and our concepts do certainly base what our abilities are in some sense. So, hold on, I gotta make sure I'm not lost here. Where are we at? Okay, we're good. Yeah, we want our brains to work a certain way. And when we're adults, we can kind of pretend that they do work in that way. Because that's what it feels like. That's what the illusion is. The illusion is like, well, I have this list of stuff and I study that list, and now it's been like 2 days and I now know all of the items in that list, and now we're good. This works sometimes, like it'll work to pass a test or something, but over weeks, over the months, like a lot of those items kind of go away. And there's some theories like spaced repetition, and I'm not like OP enough to be like those are right or those are wrong. I didn't do like a PhD on these things. But all of that aside, because the focus here is on teaching kids, and at least my experience with the kiddies was that the brain seems to work both slower and faster. What do I mean? So slower in the sense that you would input the data into their minds, you would expose them to material, you would have them repeat it back to you. You could even quiz them on it like the same day. You could drill them on it. I know this all sounds like, why even talk about this? We've solved learning. I mean, if the military can teach, their people foreign languages in 6 months to a year, then surely this is already solved. Maybe. But again, I wanted to focus more on the nuance of it, because I think it might be useful to teachers, other teachers. Because what ends up happening, I think, at first when you start, you think about like, well, how you learned language, or how you think you learned language. And especially if you studied a foreign language, how you think you've learned, how you think you had learned that foreign language. But with the kiddies, they haven't bought into the BS that most people have bought into with regards to language learning. And something weird happens where, like I said, they are picking up on a lot of things quite quickly, but it's not necessarily the items, it's not necessarily the curriculum items. So like if you have like a list of like 10 words, there's going to be some words, and this is true for adults too when you study, there's going to be like some words that you just like resonate with, like you read them one time and you immediately memorize them. And it's the same for the kids. They'll think like a word is funny. There's like an emotional relationship that might form with the word, or phrase, or sentence, or something like that. So the kiddies, they might think a word sounds funny. One example is there was a guinea pig, not an actual guinea pig, but the word guinea pig. And there was a kid who had a lot of trouble learning new words. But when the word guinea pig came up, when he first heard the word, he misheard it. And he ended up hearing it as the word like gunya pig. And pig is, there's katakana version of that out here. And gunya, I don't know if gunya means anything. I hope it doesn't mean anything. Maybe like, there's like gyudon, like cow pig maybe. Gunya pig. I don't know. The point is, bro had fun. We're talking about like I'm not gonna lie, he's probably like 10 years old, but emotionally, probably closer to like a 7-year-old, which is fine. And behaviorally too, not just emotionally. And so he thought this word was hilarious. And I'm pretty sure, he might like, I'm sure he's going to remember the word incorrectly for a while. But the point is, he has built a more solid connection to that word. An emotional one, because he thought it was funny. And I would venture to guess that a lot of the curriculum, it was just not sticking to him. He really didn't want to be there. He's like a proper human, the one that hasn't accepted that we have to be indoors all day, and he just wants to run around and be outside. More power to him. Very wise beyond his years. But it was not doing him any favors as far as the curriculum went. So he was not doing well. But he remembered that gunya pig word, i.e. guinea pig, quite well. Eventually. And actually that's my point. Eventually. You have to be really patient with kids. Especially with the English schools out here, with the English conversation schools. You only have access to these kids like once a week, twice a week, maybe. So you have limited time to interact with them. And ideally they're like studying and stuff at home. Man, there's so many nice alleys to go down. Okay. But they got other stuff going on, I'm sure. Sports or, like their actual school material. I'm here to help. I'm hoping that this video will help someone who has to teach a kid or two. And the first thing, and who has never taught kids before. We're talking, I guess it should be more specific, because kids, they like segment quite cleanly as far as like age and behavior goes. Hold on, I should jog this. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking like not toddler, but this actually, this applies to toddlers too. I've never taught babies anything, but I imagine it applies even more so to babies. Because the thing is, as you get older, the more things you learn, the more you learn how to learn. And with everyone, it's pretty different, I would say. Everyone has like different learning styles. So you're not really just teaching the kid the language, because at the end of the day, you have to teach yourself stuff. It's like the whole like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you're like exposing the knowledge to these people, these little people, but they might not know themselves how to drink from the pond of knowledge, if you will. The point is patience, way more patience than with an adult. And to be honest, I would go as far as to say that you also got to be patient with adults, because they might, depending on where they're at, how good they were at school, even how well they be learning things, they're gonna encounter the same thing. I'm hesitating to generalize this across all people, but maybe it applies. There is a certain requirement for having the material resonate with you, not necessarily via some esoteric means or spiritual means or something, but like the knowledge should move you. On the bright side, though, it doesn't need to move you consciously. So it could just go into your subconscious. That's probably more advanced. But not necessarily, because it's kind of the point. What I'm saying is, for these kids, a lot of their actions, even, a lot of their experience in life seems to be quite subconscious. And the proof for that might be that they probably are not going to remember, forget the lesson, they're just not going to remember a lot of their lives during these years. They might remember how they felt about stuff, but their memories are probably going to be somewhat blurry, foggy, unclear. So keeping that in mind, what hope do you have to teach these kids the language? Well, I would say it's more like it's not that you should focus on teaching them the language. You should just focus your energy as much as possible on making the lesson interesting enough for them to resonate with the material, and then for them to develop some kind of subconscious relationship with the material. Is this easy to do? Is this hard to do? I don't know. It's going to depend on the student, because what resonates with a person totally depends on the person, right? So if the child has already been kind of what would be the word? I don't want to use brainwashed, but if the operating system, if the software which says, hey, school is important for your future, you will be praised, you are so smart if you are able to perform to this level academically, if that software is already installed, then they might have some decent resonance with the material, and thus will have an easier time remembering things. But if that software has not been installed, and they would rather, what resonates with them is like catching bugs or playing Fortnite or something, then you're gonna have a hard time, unless you can incorporate such things into the class. I think this is getting way too long, so I'll just summarize my points. The child needs to find resonance with the material being taught. Every child is different. Be patient if it seems like none of it's sticking. Perhaps none of it will stick. But surprisingly, a decent amount is going to stick. And if it sticks, it's going to stick quite well. I had a funny student. She had never studied abroad, and her English just sounded like, from an accent perspective, it sounded like equal to mine somehow. Her grammar wasn't perfect or anything, but when I asked her why is it so good, she had no real response. She could have just been trolling, she could have been like keeping it close to the vest. But I also believe like maybe she just exposed herself to sufficiently interesting material, maybe YouTube or Netflix or something, and it was enough to for it to stick and for it to just inculcate itself somewhere in her psyche and wherever the locations of long-term memory are, maybe more specifically language. And I think that should really be the goal. The goal should be more make the lesson interesting for the student, make sure the student doesn't hate the material. Don't worry actually about hitting certain markers of knowledge. Of course, if we're talking about like real quote-unquote school, then yeah, they might be graded on their tests and stuff, but a lot of like doing well on a test is actually more along the lines of being good at school. That's like a different skill almost. But there are plenty of people, especially in Japan, they'll get like the N1. That's the highest Japanese kind of government-approved language test. They'll pass that, but their speaking is not so good. Like maybe they basically just optimize to pass the test. And that's a skill in and of itself in a world that would like such people, to hire them, for them to be, kind of like worker bees or very disciplined people. It's not all, I'm not talking that much BS. There's skills there too. There's a skill there too, a very important one. But for the kids, if you're teaching them kind of supplement classes of a language they're not even that interested in, then it's probably best to not expect the world of them. Some kids will surprise you. Some kids are really good at learning, and my theory behind it is, well, they have already found kind of a pleasure from doing well in academia. But that takes a while to get, and not everybody gets it. Not everybody is excited about school ever in their lives ever. So yeah, be patient with yourself. Don't lose hope that these kids aren't learning anything and it's all my fault, or these kids are just playing, they aren't even learning anything. You're at least at a certain level, and depending on how much support you have and how serious the mission is and stuff, like you might as well just show them a good time, kind of. And then also, hopefully, you're also doing them a favor long term, where they're not going to hate, absolutely like abhor the language. And so, because that's the real disservice you could give them, is if you kind of hammer things a little too hard and then they're just like, F this is a terrible experience, I hate learning English or whatever. Especially in Japan, these people, they already have a whole very, they have like there's a complete world out here, guys. They don't, and they're born in the very complete world. They don't really need to, they don't feel that they need to rely on the outside world. They do, don't get me wrong, because of globalization and the way the economies are all interlinked. But that doesn't come off that way. It doesn't really come off that way like in the US either, even though all our things are made in China. But for some countries, it's very obvious, like, damn, if it weren't for country X, Y, and Z, we wouldn't have this, that, or that. But in Japan, it doesn't feel like that. I mean, just look at all this. There's a whole world out here. They got local people smiling. They got them doing Western things such as golf. They got them eating looks like some elote. Straight out of Mexico over there. Got some elote. What does that say? Corn snack uriage. They call them corn snacks. We call them elote where we come from. Straight up some corn on the cob, you know. Anyways, they don't eat us. At least they don't think they do when they're literally children. So they're already like, damn, I don't really want to learn this stuff. So at the very least, the main mission out here is just don't make them hate it. If you're being graded and judged by your coworkers or manager or whatever to do a good job, or the parents or whatever, again, in my mind, my philosophy was always put the kids as number one. The no curriculum matches all humans. All my classes probably looked quite different, much to the chagrin of my managers. RIP. Apologize for stressing them out. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with them kids. Make sure they're not having a terrible time. And the kids will surprise you because they do learn quite fast. And if it doesn't, even if it doesn't seem like it, just make sure that they're not learning that whatever you're teaching them is a terrible waste of time and is a horrible experience. Minus aura, whatever. Don't teach them that, and you're already a cut above, I would say. Good luck teaching them kids.